I just felt so, beyond loved. I can't even express it. And then when I looked down over that balcony, I could see his soul family gathering and getting so excited and saying, "Oh my God, here he comes, here he comes." And then all of a sudden, a giant door kind of started to open and all the souls together all turned at the same time. And they like, "He's here, he's here."
Lisa, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Libby. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course. So why don't we start by you sharing about your experience?
Okay. It happened February 22nd, 2004, and my husband Ian had been diagnosed 7 years prior with lymphoma. And over the 7 years of his illness, he did actually have a short time of remission, which I was grateful for. But then the last 2 years, it came back. And overall, he experienced 3 stem cell transplants and all sorts of chemotherapy and radiation, which was just agonizing to witness. And when he was diagnosed, we had a 1 and a 3-year-old, and then they were 8 and 10 when he passed away. So again, it was just a really difficult time. However, the highlight of that whole experience was we had been in Seattle getting treatment there. We lived in Connecticut, but we were there for almost 9 months living in a hotel. And then one day they just said, "Okay, you're finished here. We're going to send you home." And we didn't quite understand it. But I think in retrospect, they just didn't want us there when he passed away. So we went home, and that was in November. And then in February, we'd gone to the doctor and he just said, "There's really nothing more we can do." So this was probably just a few days before the 22nd, which is when he died. And up until that point, he had been functioning. Again, very sick, but he was able to get up and feed himself and do everything. But that Friday morning, he woke up completely incoherent, and it really panicked me, and he couldn't get out of bed. And I called the doctor, and they decided to send hospice over. And so Saturday morning, hospice arrived. They brought everything, and they said, he actually looks really good. It's probably going to be 2 to 6 weeks before he passes. And I just couldn't imagine, because this was the first time that he really was unable to communicate or really do anything. And so fortunately for me, that was the first time that his brother came and his best friend flew in. And so I had 2 helpers for the first time. And Saturday night, my kids ended up sleeping not in our home, but they had gone elsewhere. So I gave Ian a kiss goodnight, and then he was in our bedroom sleeping, and I went to my daughter's room and laid down. And I was just praying to God and the angels and just asking for their help, because I knew there was no way out at this point. Like, we were at the end game. And I had never, at that point, I still had 3 living grandparents. I had really not experienced death in my life. And so I closed my eyes, and, I definitely do believe I went to sleep, but the next thing I know is that 2 angels came and basically escorted my soul out of my body and took me to another realm. And I call it heaven because it's exactly what I thought heaven would look like. And there were just these beautiful golden rolling hills with there were a lot of vistas. It was so clean and so clear. And off in the distance, I could see almost like a castle, for lack of a better description. Again, so much of what I witnessed, I can't even articulate because we don't have words for them on this planet. And so the next thing I know, I saw it far away. And the next thing I know, I was inside, and I was escorted up to this balcony, and I could see down below. And meanwhile, as I'm being escorted, it all was kind of happening simultaneously. I could hear choirs singing. I could hear trumpets going. And I heard an announcement. It still gives me chills as whenever I think of this. It was, "The Grand Mr. Ian Sharp is about to arrive." And I just completely was so excited. I was enveloped in unconditional love. That was the one major thing of all of it. Well, 2 things, the cleanliness of it all, and then the unconditional love. I just felt so, beyond loved. I can't even express it. And then when I looked down over that balcony, I could see his soul family gathering and getting so excited and saying, "Oh my God, here he comes, here he comes." And then all of a sudden, a giant door kind of started to open, and all the souls together all turned at the same time. And they like, "He's here, he's here." And just at that moment, there was a knock on my door of my daughter's bedroom, and it was his brother. And he said, "Lisa, wake up, wake up. Ian just took his last breath." And at that moment, it was like I was in both places simultaneously, but it was almost like the trap door up in heaven opened up, and my soul, I felt this falling feeling, and I fell back into my body. And it was almost like, it was like I got sucked back into my physical body, and I jumped out of bed, and I had this conflicting emotion of like, oh my God, that was amazing. I'm so excited. And also like, oh my God, my husband just died. How can I have these feelings? And to make it even more dramatic is that I thought he was going to go to hell because I was very religious at that point, and he wasn't baptized, and he refused to get baptized. And so for those few weeks prior to his death, I was in a panic about what was going to happen to his soul and where he was going to go. And so to have that experience was just the most comforting thing. And then I ran down to our bedroom and I saw his body laying there, and it wasn't him. It was a shell. I could tell that his soul had gone, and that it was just literally like looking at a table, or there was no emotion at all, in witnessing that. And then to really bring it full circle it was a night, because I had to call the mortuary and everything, and they came to get his body. But meanwhile, in the morning, I had to go tell my children. And that was the most difficult part, because again, we thought he was going to be here for another 2 to 6 weeks. And so as I was blow drying my hair, and I was just thinking, rehearsing what I was going to say, I had flipped my head over, and I was kind of, just blow drying my hair. And all of a sudden, Ian's voice was clear as day in my left ear. It was almost like I could feel his breath on my shoulder. And he's like, oh my God, Lisa, I love you, but it's so awesome here. And I dropped my blow dryer. I mean, it completely took me by surprise, but it was so comforting to know that I received his validation of what I experienced. And it's just been that way ever since. I mean, I wouldn't say I hear his voice like that all the time, but I've heard it multiple times over the last 21 years. And he's always leading me and suggesting ideas. And I mean, I have so many stories of how he's led me on my journey. And so I call him my heavenly husband. He's still with me. He's still guiding me and helping me. And I'm just so grateful for the experience.
I love that. I was going to ask you if before you woke up, did you see your husband there? But him saying that to you.
Right. Because literally as the door opened, it's almost like I could see his foot entering, but it was right then. I think if his brother hadn't woken me up, I would have witnessed it. And yet I almost feel like I wasn't meant to witness it, because I didn't want to leave. I'm like, I want to stay here. This is home. I'm so happy to be home and to be in this unconditional love. But of course, my children, that was my main focus after that.
So when you say that he still guides you, is there a really specific example you could give me?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because we're recording this on his birthday, which I think is amazing. And just April 1st was my 3-year anniversary of living in this beautiful cottage that I'm in right now. And this is a great example of him helping me and guiding me. So 3 years plus ago, I was living in another location, and my landlords, it was right after COVID had kind of opened things up, and they were allowed to start increasing rents. And so they upped my rent dramatically because they couldn't for the prior 2 years. And I was like shocked. And I had a little elderly dog, and it's really hard here on Maui to find housing, especially with animals. And so I thought I was having a heart attack. It was actually a panic attack, but my heart was just racing. And I thought, well, if I'm going to die, I'm just going to go to the beach, because I'm not, after witnessing all of his procedures and everything, I'm not going to go down that road if anything ever happens to me. So I'm like, I'll go to the beach and die. So I get down there, and I end up meeting a woman who I've never met before. Apparently she goes there all the time as well. And it's funny that we never crossed paths. And I was crying, and she's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And I explained the situation. And she's like, well, interestingly, I just found out my neighbor's tenant is leaving their cottage. Why don't I introduce you to them? And I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so I come up and I meet them, and they've never let anyone here have a dog before, but they instantly fell in love with my little tuxedo, who did pass away about 3 months after I moved in. However, they said, well, tell us a little bit about you. And I said, well, former CPA, Pricewaterhouse in San Francisco. And they said, oh, do you happen to know this person? And it stopped me in my tracks. It was my late husband's roommate, the 2 years that we dated, and he was at my wedding. And they're like, well, he's our investment advisor, and he has been for, many, many years since he stopped working at Pricewaterhouse. And what are the odds that I would go to the beach, again, I've got chills. I mean, whenever I feel chills, it's truth. And, meet a woman who I'd never met before, who apparently goes there all the time. And then she introduces me to this family that knows somebody that my husband worked with and I worked with, 30 years ago. I mean, what are the chances?
It's too specific.
You can't make it up. You cannot make it up.
You really can't.
Yeah.
I do want to tell you one of mine real quick, and then we'll continue.
I know we have so many coincidences. We have to talk about that.
We really do. So I don't wear them because I don't want to break them, but me and my mom made these bracelets. You know, the bracelets where you write the beads, the letters.
Right,
so
right.
We both made each other one, and they say, I love you. And it was the anniversary year 1 of her passing. And I went to estate sales because she loved estate sales. So I was doing stuff she liked to do. And I saw a bead set, and the art, like the marketing art on the outside of it, was 2 bracelets that said, I love you. The bracelet in the middle was Lisa.
Oh my God.
You can't.
No, you can't make it up. You absolutely cannot make that up. That's incredible.
I know. Whenever I get really sad about it, I try to remember that. Yeah. I'm like, that was my mom, 100%. Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That is so funny. I've got one other little quick one. So my son graduated from Clemson University, and several years ago, they were going to the national championship to play football. And my son was actually here visiting me in Maui, and it had just been announced, that they were going to be in San Jose to play the game. And I hear my husband say, tell him to go. And I'm like, what? He's like, tell him to go to the game. And so I said to Robbie, I didn't tell him that his dad said this, but I just said, hey, I think it'd be really great if you go to the game. And he's like, oh no, they're not, they're going to lose. They're underdogs. Like, there's no way I want to go witness that. And I just kept saying, well, I really think it would be a good idea. I mean, what are the chances that your college is, going to this national championship? So he ended up going, and my husband said to me, I'm going to help them win. And so I said to Robbie, I said, well, you never know, underdogs, sometimes they win or whatever. So again, he ended up going and having a great time and meeting up with a bunch of friends. And sure enough, they won. And the score was 44-16. My husband was 44 when he died. And he died in, February 22nd, which is, 2 times 22 is 44, in 2004. And so I'm just like, really? And again, they were underdogs. They weren't supposed to win, and they end up winning. I mean, football does not normally have scores of 44. So again, I don't know, did he have some influence on that or not? But it's almost like you can't make it up.
No, you really, really can't.
Especially when I'm told, oh, I'm going to help them win, it's like, okay, that sounds really far-fetched, but we'll go with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that your experience with your husband, did that help you with your grieving process at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think part of it for me, and again, I mean, no death is easy for sure, but because he was sick for so long, I was doing a lot of grieving when he was still alive, right? Because I knew I had an intuition when he got re-diagnosed for those last 2 years. Again, it was like a knowing in my body. I'm like, he's not going to make it this time. And so I was already having to come to terms with that over those last 2 years. And yet he didn't ever want to go there. I was like, maybe we should do some videos for the kids, but he was like, no, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to, do everything possible. And it was hard because I really felt like I had to carry it alone, because he didn't want to face the fact that potentially he could die. And meanwhile, we weren't living a normal life because he was sick, so I was like a caregiver. It wasn't like a husband-wife situation. So 30 days after he died, I actually took my wedding ring off, and I just said, okay, God, I want to be in a relationship with a man who loves my children like his own, but also loves me, and live a normal, happy life, because I'm tired of, I was 30 when he was diagnosed, and he died when I was 37. So basically my entire 30s was, being a caregiver. So yes, as much as the grief it was difficult. The fact that he was still talking to me and there with me. And again, he died February 22nd on Easter that year. It was Easter night and I was, the night before Easter, and I needed to put the eggs out for the kids and do the Easter bunny thing. And he loved doing all that. He loved decorating Christmas and I wasn't really into it. So I was looking out the window and I'm thinking, and it's raining, and I just felt what is going on? I can't believe this. What am I going to do? And I turned around, and this was I was fully awake when this happened. I turned around and there he is standing like in a full apparition, like he was shimmering, perfect health. He looked amazing. And there was no words. He just telepathically said, "You've got this. I love you so much. You've got this." And I just was, what do you do when you see a full apparition of your beloved husband, right? And so he just outstretched his arms and just walked. I don't even know if he walked. He kind of just floated toward me. And then he went right through me, which was a huge rush of energy. And then he went and laid down on the bed right where he died. And then I jumped on the bed and just kind of laid like looking at him. And then he just kind of evaporated, away. But again, that was just the grief. How can you grieve when you know they're still there? It's just a different experience. And that's what I try to help people. That's what I love to do. I mentor people in their spiritual journeys, because when you know that they're still there, you just have to figure out how to have that relationship with them in a new way, because obviously you can't have it in the physical. But we've had an amazing relationship, even though he's passed away. And so, yeah, the grief is hard to not have him in the physical, but it's been even more amazing to have this experience where all these spiritual things are happening, all these miracles.
What would you say is the biggest lesson the whole experience has taught you?
Yeah, to me, the biggest lesson is that there is no hell. We create our own hell here on earth, that we all go on to a next realm, and whatever our current consciousness is of what the next realm is, that's what you're stepping into. It's not like you're going into some other. I saw what I believed heaven was. I don't think any Buddhist would see what I saw, because that's not their belief. And so I just feel like it is such a magnificently orchestrated experience that it's all individual, and that we go on, and so that we can still have a relationship even though somebody in the physical is no longer here. And that blew my mind, that it was so palpable and so obvious to me.
So, question piggybacking off that.
Yes.
Because I do believe that as well. I do believe whatever you believe is what will be in your afterlife.
Yes.
Now, if you and a loved one have two different beliefs of what the afterlife is, are they in your afterlife?
Well, it's a great question. But interestingly, again, Ian did not want to get baptized. And yet I saw him intersect in my experience, my shared death experience. And he's continued talking to me. So yeah, I think it's possible. Like, again, I think we're everything everywhere all the time. So even though maybe he comes into my experience, maybe he's having a completely different experience, as well.
And that's what life is.
Right. Right. I know. Yeah. It's so exciting when we realize that. It's like, no, I'm creating my life. I'm literally the creator of my life. And all of these wonderful people that come in and go out are all there in my play, that are acting out in the experiences that I'm having. And yet they get to have their own individual experience of me in their play, right? That's the thing, that there's no words to explain this, because I don't think we're supposed to really understand it.
Quick break real quick to just say that I really, really hope you are enjoying this episode. And if you are, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe below so you can start seeing more of these wonderful episodes that will be out every Friday. Thank you.
We came to Earth to, I believe, learn to love regardless of whatever happens. But it's so fun to be playing in this realm of being able to see other sides of it.
Yeah, that would be really fun. I feel like that would be really fun. But yeah, I do feel like, it's my boyfriend has his own reality. I have mine.
Yes.
So and we see each other every day.
Exactly. Right. But yet you have no idea, like, if you were to step into his brain, it's probably completely different than what you, as you would imagine what it is. Like, nobody can understand what anybody else's reality is really like,
So based off of all that, I do think we are with each other.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
In your experience, were you in your human body?
Great question. No, I don't feel like I was in my human body. I literally feel like it was on the bed and my soul came out of my human body, because I remember palpably falling back into my human body and very much feeling like I had to squeeze into it like a corset or something, So yeah, no, it was my soul that was taken out. And I had that happen one other time. I'd gone to, do you know Denise Lin at all? She's done soul coaching. She used to do feng shui. I think she actually brought feng shui to the United States many years ago. One of my early mentors. And I went and studied with her at her home. And I was staying in one of the cottages that she called in the vortex. And I remember waking up one night and my body was paralyzed. I couldn't move my body, but my soul stepped out of my body, went outside, and there was a Native American tribe doing a ceremony that I witnessed and experienced. And yet I could tell that I was out of my body, my physical body, because I couldn't. And it was such a weird feeling. I didn't have that specifically the night of my husband's death, because I think I was so with the soul that I left my body until I got back into it. But yeah, I've had some really amazing experiences in my lifetime. And I thought everybody had these, but apparently not.
I have not had any experiences like that.
Right, right.
My mom has been in my dreams.
Okay.
And I 100% believe it was her every time, because they also have evolved.
That's amazing.
And the first one, she was in a dark hall. My mom did not know. It was unexpected.
Wow.
She died out of nowhere.
Wow.
And her number was blocked. So me and her were not on good terms. She was an alcoholic and she was spiraling. So I was just trying to protect myself. And my first dream, she was in a dark, hallway room. It was pitch black. She was in a hospital bed and she was just crying, not knowing what was going on. And I knew she really did not know what was going on. And then the next one, I think it was the next one. She was in the passenger seat of a car. I don't know who was driving us. I was in the back seat and she's just talking. And I was frustrated with her. And I was like, do you not know? And she was like, that I'm dead? Yeah, I know.
Wow.
And then the next one, I had not seen her for a while. These two might be flipped.
Right, reversed.
I was also frustrated. And I was like, where have you been? And she's like, I'm so sorry. I've been with Brandon. He's been showing me around. Brandon is my dead cousin.
Wow. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. See, and that's it. And I've had a couple of dreams, but nothing like that. Nothing so vivid. And so, that's so right on.
Yeah. I'm more awake in those dreams.
Right.
And I had one 2 nights ago because I've been missing her a lot and it's coming up on the anniversary. I battled with my faith and everything when she died because I always envisioned she was going to be taking care of my kids and everything. I thought she'd be in a guest house, living with me, and that's not going to happen. But I've been battling the past little bit because it's the anniversary of the second year of her passing. Mm-hmm. And in this dream, she was alive and it was still very drama filled.
Wow.
And I was like, she truly was telling me it would be no better.
Right. Wow. What a blessing. Right. Yeah. Your dream wouldn't have been reality anyways.
Yeah. Addiction is an illness.
Thank you for sharing. That's really powerful. Again, to know, and I think for a lot of people listening too, if you have someone in your life that you're struggling with, just because they, they're not necessarily going to ever change, right? That's just who they are. And I think that's a big part of what I've learned too, is just allowing people to show you who they are and then trust that and then figure out for yourself, like you said, you had to block her at one point just to keep yourself healthy. And I'm finding, that's what my lesson the last 8 years after moving to Maui, it's all been about boundaries and about keeping myself safe and what's best for me, because again, all these other people are here just to kind of give us life lessons, and how much are we willing to suffer with them or without them.
And I feel like some people do transition if they're choosing to not learn.
I agree with you. I agree.
If their work here is done.
Yeah.
And my mom was not learning. And I said that within an hour of finding out she died, I was like, she wasn't learning her lessons.
Wow. It's so interesting you say that, because I feel in some ways that was my husband too, because he had the cancer And then he did go into the remission for a little bit, but he didn't change anything. Like he said he wanted to open a bookstore and a coffee shop. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it. And he's like, but he felt so tied to climbing the corporate ladder and making more money and working as an attorney in this big company. And at the end, a week before he died, he said, I so regret my life's work. I wish I had helped more people. And he's like, all I did was move numbers around on pieces of paper for a big company. He's like, what a waste. And that broke my heart. And yet, I feel like we are here to help more people. And then after he passed away, I ended up going back to a hedge fund and working as I was approaching my 44th birthday, which is how old he was when he died. And I got a very clear message like, look at you moving numbers around on pieces of paper, not helping more people. Because meanwhile, my angels are like, you got to quit. You need to, write your book. You need to get on stages. You need to share your story. And as soon as I quit, it all unfolded and it was amazing. But I was caught up in making more money and, not doing my life's work. And so I feel like he was, and again, I also believe that we all choose what experiences we want to have before we come down and who like, oh, okay, your mom chose that part to play the alcoholic in your life and leave early. And you knew that, but like, it's always new when it happens. We don't know that it's going to happen. But it helps me live through life because otherwise the tragedies that go on here, I can't even imagine. Like, it just makes me feel better to say like, oh yeah, we all agreed to this before.
And it makes you less of a victim.
Yes, exactly.
Like it gives you power back
right.
to know you can get through it if you want to.
Exactly. Right. And not be blaming everybody outside of you for what's going on, being like, oh my gosh. Like my dad played a role of, the absentee father, not non-emotional father. So I would have that experience. Okay, thanks, Dad. Like, rather than like, okay, I'm going to blame him for the rest of my life because, he was a terrible father. Like that doesn't serve anything.
No, like how are you going to use it?
Yes, exactly. And that's what I've always said. I feel like all of our life lessons, they can be foundations to step up on and move forward, or they can be like, quicksand where you just get sucked in and choose to use that as your story of why you're failing in life, and again, that's why I wrote my book, The Art of Living Happy, after the loss of a loved one, because I know so many people that lose a loved one and then they just spiral down rather than realizing like, wow, what a gift they were in my life. And I'm so grateful. And how can I move forward in a way that their death actually empowers me rather than takes me down?
Yeah, I was speaking with, her name is Betty, and she said whenever she chose her life, she chose addiction, but she also had recovery. It was up to her if she chose to. Like right. Both were in the basket.
Right. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I know I always joke because I'm always like, why did I have to check the check all box? Because I feel like I've had so many experiences in this lifetime. I'm like, really? Did I have to choose every one of those?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I feel the same way. What advice would you give someone going through grief currently and they're like heavy in it and without the experiences you had?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously mine was very unique and I had it with my dad and my mom. And so it's been like such a beautiful gift for me to experience death. Well, I would say the biggest thing is one, you got to feel the grief. Like you can't just like breeze by it. Like there's a whole experience of going in and go deep into the grief because it's like an alchemy. It's like it's a transmutation of who you are as a person. And so I definitely feel like you can't just spiritually bypass that because it helps you, I believe, at the end of the day, make you a better person and help you understand what's important in life and what isn't. And I think that was a big thing with my husband dying at such a young age, especially for my children. Like I remember my daughter going to prom and she picked out a beautiful dress but she was like, Mom, all my other friends, they're like, there's so much drama about which dress they're getting and this and that. She's like, it's just a dance. And I thought, wow, that's the power of losing your father at 10 is you realize what's important and what isn't. And so I think that people that are deep in grief, you can start really seeing what is important in life and what isn't and let go of those kind of petty, ridiculous, like non-issues rather than caring about the people you love. Love your friends and family more, do self-work on yourself to really dive in. And I work as a volunteer for hospice and they offer some amazing opportunities to go into grief work and just go deeper. And recently, it was a year ago now, but I dove into I was adopted as a baby and I didn't realize how much grief I still have. I'm 58 now. And I was like, wow, like there was some deep, heavy grief in there that I had never acknowledged or really allowed myself to go. And it was so helpful to just go through some of these exercises of understanding, like, what did that mean? And how did I come to some inevitable conclusions, like that I wasn't good enough, I was given away the moment I was born? I mean, so that's been something I've been carrying my whole life. And yet it's like, wow, that's not true at all. Like, my mom did the best she could. And back in 1966, like, you didn't take a kid home after, if you were unwed and pregnant, like that was part of societal expectations. And so, I was never mad at her. Even as a 4-year-old, I was like, oh my God, this was God's plan. Like, my mommy couldn't have a baby and another woman could. And so God gave me to you. I mean, that's like how brilliant, this little 4-year-old. I knew the truth then, but just the conditioning over the years, I fell into the trap of that. So the other thing I will say, though, is once you start feeling like, okay, I'm ready to start moving forward, start asking your loved ones for signs. I love signs. My husband comes to me as a dragonfly, and whenever I'm going through anything and all of a sudden a dragonfly shows up, I feel like he's right there. Like, I've got you. I've got your back. Even if I don't hear words from him, in my body, I know that he's there. My mom is a red cardinal, and she just had her passing. We just had the 11th year of her passing on the spring equinox. And sure enough, a beautiful red cardinal showed up that morning and singing the song. And I'm just like, oh my God, Mom, you are here. Like, it's such validation. And again, I know some people, it's like, well, how do you know it's really a sign? If you call in a sign and it shows up, it's a sign. Like, take it with both hands and say thank you. That's one of the biggest things, is that people tend to dismiss it or say, oh, it's just a coincidence. And it's like, no, do you know how hard it is for them to get signs to us? Like, we need to appreciate it and be grateful that they're out there willing to give us these amazing signs. And those signs are incredible. Like, they can be very affirming.
I do agree with that.
Like your sign with the bracelets. That's incredible.
I know. Like, that's such a specific sign.
Yeah.
So specific.
Oh my gosh. I just want to share one that was so palpable to me. So 2017, I did get remarried, and we were together for 13 years, and it was amazing. But then we decided to consciously uncouple, as I had wanted to move to Hawaii my entire life. And eventually he decided that's not what he wanted. So I was driving across the country, and we had been living in South Carolina, and in the middle of Missouri, I think I was just crying, and out loud, I'm saying, oh dear God, did I make the right choice? Did I make the right choice? Because it was such a hardship to follow my dream and yet, leave my, ex-husband. I mean, there were some other issues as well, but it was just a really difficult time. So I say out loud, did I make the right choice? And then all of a sudden the traffic just kind of slowed down, and we come to a stop, and right in front of me, which I hadn't noticed because I'm crying, is a big box truck. And on the back of the truck, it says, the right choice, the best choice. And it was for some sort of potato chip company. And I have a photo. I actually grabbed my phone and took a photo, and I thought, wow, you can't get a better sign than that, right there, plain as day, written out, the right choice, the best choice. And I'm like, okay, gonna keep going.
I agree. Lisa, you have a book.
I do. In fact, it's right here. I just ordered a whole bunch of new ones. I was asked to do a book signing here in Maui right before Mother's Day, and it was a real labor of love. I would not call myself an author. I would say I had a really powerful story to share, and I hired a book coach, and she helped me weave all my different threads of stories together. And then I hired a great editor who, really polished it up and everything, and I'm really proud of it.
I'm going to read it. I'm very excited.
It's my memoir of kind of like it starts with my husband dying, and then kind of what happened, and then leaving the hedge fund, and then getting on stage, and so much has happened. Obviously, this is about my connection, meeting my second husband. It's all about our love story, which again, we ended up getting divorced, but it's a fun part of my life. And interestingly, I read it for Audible a few years ago now, but as I was reading it, I'm like, this poor woman, I can't believe what she's been through. And I'm like, oh wait, it's me. but it is very cathartic to write any kind of trauma story. This is another great advice for people grieving. Write out your story on a piece of paper. It kind of gets it out of your body and helps you process it in a different way because you're not holding all the stories in your mind and in your body. Like it gets it out. And that's been very helpful for me.
Where can people find you?
They can find me at my website, and it's called beingofloveandlight.com. And I also offer a consultation with people, and I'll send you the link for that as well.
Perfect. Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciated talking to you, and your energy is just very contagious.
Well, thank you, Libby. I'm so honored to be here. And I love your story about your mom. And wow, what a gift that you are giving to humanity by having this podcast. I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much for watching Lost and Found. If you like this episode, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below. There will be new episodes every Friday. And if nothing else, just remember that grief is really hard. You don't have to do it alone. And I love you. And until next time.